Nathan Carter had it all: success, wealth, and the charm to make the world bend to his will. As the CEO of a leading technology company, his life was a whirlwind of groundbreaking innovation and lavish celebrations. But behind the polished facade of his glamorous life, he was a man untouched by the struggles of others. One night, at a lavish party in downtown San Francisco, Nathan's best friend, Ethan Lewis, decided to challenge him in a way no one had ever done before. Over a glass of old whiskey, Ethan leaned in with a knowing smile. "Nathan, I bet you can't marry a 200-pound woman. Someone who isn't your typical type." Nathan raised an eyebrow, curious. "And what do I get if I win?" Ethan grinned. "$1 million. But there's one condition. You have to stay married for 6 months. No backing out." For Nathan, who had never turned down a challenge, the offer was irresistible. It wasn't about the money. It was about proving he could succeed at anything. When Ethan revealed the woman he had in mind, Nathan was momentarily stunned. Emma Taylor, a teacher? She was down to earth, unassuming, and completely different from the glamorous women he usually dated. Nathan smirked, hiding his uncertainty. 6 months? Easy. Little did he know, this bet would test him in ways he never anticipated. Ethan wasted no time setting the plan in motion. Within days, Nathan received the details about Emma Taylor. She was a high school teacher in a quiet suburb, known for her strong sense of independence and quick wit. Unlike the women Nathan typically surrounded himself with, Emma wasn't swayed by wealth or glamour. If anything, she seemed like the type to challenge everything Nathan represented. Nathan's first meeting with Emma was arranged at a cozy cafe, far removed from the upscale establishments he frequented. He arrived early, his tailored suit and polished demeanor making him stand out among the cafe's casual patrons. As he waited, Nathan rehearsed how he would charm her, viewing this meeting as just another negotiation to win. When Emma walked in, Nathan was momentarily taken aback. She carried herself with a quiet confidence that didn't rely on appearances. Dressed simply but elegantly, she met his gaze directly, showing no sign of intimidation. "You must be Nathan Carter," she said as she took a seat across from him. "And you must be Emma Taylor," Nathan replied smoothly, offering his hand. Emma hesitated before shaking it briefly, her grip firm. She wasted no time getting to the point. "I know why we're here. Ethan told me everything. About the bet, the conditions, and your reasons for agreeing to it." Nathan's composed smile faltered slightly. "And yet, you still agreed to meet me. Why?" Emma leaned back in her chair, her expression calm but her eyes sharp. "Let's just say I have my reasons. But let me be clear, this isn't a game for me, Nathan. 6 months may sound like a short time to you, but I won't let anyone, not even you, control or diminish who I am." Her directness caught Nathan off guard, and for the first time in years, he felt uncertain. She wasn't like anyone he had ever encountered. As their meeting ended, Nathan couldn't shake the feeling that Emma was more than just a challenge. There was something about her unwavering independence and strength that intrigued him, sparking a curiosity he hadn't expected. The wedding was everything Nathan Carter had envisioned: efficient, devoid of emotion, and carried out like a business contract. For Emma Taylor, however, it was a calculated step in a much larger plan. Standing in Nathan's luxurious San Francisco penthouse after the ceremony, Emma made her boundaries clear. 6 months, Nathan," she said firmly, her voice steady as she gazed out at the glittering city skyline. "Not a day more." Nathan smiled, his usual charm at full force. "We'll see about that." At first, Nathan approached their marriage like any other challenge, confident he could win Emma over. He showered her with lavish gifts, designer dresses, jewelry, and invitations to exotic getaways. But to his frustration, Emma refused it all. I don't need these things, she would say simply, her tone calm but resolute. They don't change who I am. Emma's insistence on maintaining her independence baffled Nathan. She continued teaching, sticking to her modest routines, and refusing to indulge in the luxury that surrounded her. When Nathan tried to persuade her to take time off work, she stood her ground. I have my own life, Nathan. Your money doesn't change that, she said, meeting his gaze without flinching. This resistance only fueled Nathan's determination. He began using more manipulative tactics, from rearranging her work schedule to creating minor inconveniences designed to disrupt her daily life. But every time he tried to assert control, Emma pushed back with unwavering strength. Conversations turned into battles of wit, where Emma dismantled Nathan's arguments with sharp, measured words. Her resilience unnerved him, not because it threatened his plan, but because it made him question his own motives. One night, after another failed attempt to sway her, Nathan voiced his frustration. Why are you so different, Emma? Any other woman would be thrilled to live this life. Emma looked at him, her expression unyielding. Because I know who I am, and no amount of money or power will ever change that. Her words lingered with Nathan long after she left the room. This wasn't just a bet anymore. It was personal. Emma wasn't just resisting him. She was forcing him to confront the cracks in his own carefully constructed world. As the weeks passed, Nathan Carter's frustration deepened. No matter how hard he tried, Emma Taylor remained unshaken, firmly holding onto her independence and principles. Her resilience wasn't just a challenge to his ego. It was a mirror reflecting the emptiness of his own life. Then one evening, everything changed. Nathan had just returned from a long day of meetings, expecting the usual cold silence between them. Instead, he found Emma sitting in the living room, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. The usual calmness in her eyes was replaced by something far more intense, a mix of anger, pain, and determination. We need to talk, she said, her voice steady but edged with emotion. Nathan, caught off guard, nodded and sat across from her. What is it? Emma took a deep breath, her fingers tightening as she spoke. Do you remember a company called Taylor Innovations? The name stirred something faint in Nathan's memory. A small tech startup he had acquired years ago during a particularly aggressive business expansion. I think so, he replied cautiously. It was a long time ago. Why? Emma's jaw tightened. That was my father's company. He built it from the ground up, poured everything he had into it. Until you came along. Nathan blinked, unprepared for the weight of her words. Emma, You destroyed it, Nathan, she interrupted, her voice breaking as it rose. You didn't just take his company. You took his pride, his dreams, and his will to live. My father was a strong man, but losing everything broke him in ways I can't even describe. It didn't take long before depression consumed him, and one day, he was gone. The room fell into a heavy silence. Nathan felt the air leave his lungs as the enormity of her revelation sank in. And it wasn't just my father, Emma continued, her voice trembling. I lost everything. My home, my stability, my family. I was even pregnant at the time. Nathan froze. Pregnant? He echoed, his voice hollow. Emma nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. The stress, the pressure, it was too much. I lost the baby, and while my world fell apart, you thrived, untouched and unaware. Her words hit Nathan like a physical blow. The confidence and control he had always relied on crumbled beneath the weight of her pain. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came. You wanted to know why I agreed to this marriage, Emma said, her voice icy. It wasn't for the money. It was to show you what it feels like to be powerless, to face the consequences of your actions. Nathan sat motionless, his world unraveling. For the first time in his life, he wasn't the one in control, and it terrified him. The days following Emma's revelation were the most difficult Nathan Carter had ever faced. Her words haunted him, replaying in his mind like a relentless storm. For years, he had built his empire without a second thought for the people left in his wake. Now, for the first time, he was forced to confront the human cost of his success. Nathan knew he couldn't undo the damage he had caused, but he was determined to change. Apologies weren't enough. Emma had made that clear. He needed to prove, through actions, not words, that he could be a better man. His first step was to look inward. Nathan began reevaluating his business practices, examining every deal he had made and every life he had impacted. The memories were overwhelming, but he knew he couldn't ignore them any longer. He hired a team to help track down families and businesses that had been affected by his past decisions. Quietly and without fanfare, he started reaching out to those he had hurt, offering not just financial compensation, but tangible support to help rebuild what he had destroyed. One afternoon, Emma returned home to find Nathan setting the table with fresh peonies, her favorite flowers. The sight caught her off guard. "What's this?" she asked, her tone cautious. "I noticed you like them," Nathan replied simply, his voice free of the usual arrogance. I thought it might brighten your day." Emma said nothing, but later that evening, Nathan saw her gently placing the flowers in a vase. It was a small gesture, but it gave him hope. Nathan also stopped trying to control Emma's life. Instead of forcing his opinions, he began supporting her passions. He asked about her work, listened to her opinions, and even volunteered to help with her school projects. One evening, as they sat on the balcony watching the sunset, Emma broke the silence. "You're different," she said, her tone contemplative. Nathan turned to her, his expression earnest. "I'm trying to be, not just for you, but for me." Emma didn't respond immediately, but Nathan saw the faintest hint of a smile tugging at her lips. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was a start. For Mason, that was enough. As the 6-month deadline approached, Nathan Carter realized that the bet no longer mattered. The money, the competition, it all felt trivial compared to what he now valued most. Emma Taylor. For the first time in his life, Nathan was driven by something other than ambition. He decided to make his feelings clear. One evening, he prepared a simple yet heartfelt dinner on the penthouse balcony. The table was set with Emma's favorite dishes, and soft candlelight flickered in the cool evening breeze. Emma arrived home from work, visibly surprised by the setup. "What's all this?" she asked, her tone a mix of curiosity and caution. Nathan gestured for her to sit, his usual confidence replaced by nervous energy. "I wanted to talk to you," he said, his voice softer than she had ever heard it. As they ate, the conversation flowed more easily than it had in weeks, but Nathan knew he couldn't avoid the heart of the matter any longer. He set down his fork and looked at Emma, his gaze steady and sincere. "Emma," he began, his voice slightly unsteady. "When this all started, I was arrogant and blind to how my actions affected others. Meeting you and seeing the strength you carry has changed me in ways I never thought possible." Emma remained silent, her expression unreadable, as Nathan continued. "I know our agreement is coming to an end," he said, his voice firm despite his vulnerability. "But I don't want this to end. I don't want us to end." He paused, taking a deep breath. "I've fallen in love with you, Emma, not because of a bet, but because of who you are, your strength, your heart, everything. I want us to be together, for real this time." For a long moment, Emma didn't respond. Nathan's heart raced as he waited, the silence stretching unbearably. Finally, Emma met his gaze, her eyes filled with a mix of emotions. "I didn't think I could ever feel this way," she admitted quietly. "But somewhere along the way, you changed. And I think I feel the same." Nathan's heart swelled with relief and joy. He reached for her hand, and for the first time, she didn't pull away. The months that followed Nathan's confession marked a turning point for him and Emma. They had entered their marriage as adversaries, bound by a wager neither fully understood, but now they were rediscovering each other as equals. Their second wedding was a stark contrast to the first. Gone was the cold, calculated ceremony. In its place was an intimate gathering, with only close friends and family. The setting was simple, a charming garden lit by strings of fairy lights. For the first time, Nathan and Emma stood before each other, not as participants in a bet, but as two people choosing to share their lives. "I promise to love you, respect you, and stand beside you," Nathan said during his vows, his voice steady with conviction. Emma's response mirrored his sincerity, her smile warm and genuine. Their love grew stronger with each passing day, but life had one more surprise in store. A few months into their new life together, Emma began to feel unwell. Morning nausea and unusual fatigue prompted her to visit the doctor, and the news left her in awe. She was pregnant. When Emma told Nathan, his reaction was pure, unfiltered joy. He laughed, tears streaming down his face, and hugged her tightly. "We're starting a family," he said, his voice thick with emotion. Emma smiled, her hand resting on her stomach. "This time, it'll be different," she whispered. As they prepared for parenthood, Nathan and Emma found themselves reflecting on the journey that had brought them here. What began as a cold transaction had blossomed into genuine love, trust, and hope for the future. One quiet evening, as they stood on the balcony watching the city lights, Emma rested her head on Nathan's shoulder. "Who would have thought this all started with a bet?" she mused with a soft laugh. Nathan smiled, holding her close. "The best gamble I've ever made," he replied. Together, they were ready to embrace the next chapter of their lives, a story of love, redemption, and new beginnings.